Welcome to our December update, which will cover the latest information we have on the Greater Manchester Spatial Framework and Trafford's local plan, together with progress on our alternative strategies for Carrington Moss. Stockport's withdrawal from the Greater Manchester Spatial Framework has resulted in further delays to this regional strategy. But we understand the remaining 9 boroughs are going ahead with what has become known as the Plan of 9. We are a member of the Save Greater Manchester Greenbelts Group, which is a conglomeration of over 50 Greenbelt groups in Greater Manchester. The SGMGB, as it's fondly known for short, recently met with the GMSF team and anticipates that the timing of the next public consultation on the GMSF itself will not now be until June 2021 at the earliest. This is because whilst most of the evidence supporting the GMSF will remain the same, the GMCA needs to rework the housing need figures for each of the 9 authorities now that Stockport has withdrawn and the government has instructed large cities, including Manchester, to uplift their housing allocations by 35%. This uplift requirement could cause some problems for Trafford because Manchester was one of the authorities that was planning to build more homes so that Trafford and other boroughs in the region could reduce their need to release Greenbelt. In addition, the delay does bring some challenges in terms of timescale because both the GMCA and local authorities must have their plans complete and adopted by the end of 2023. This means that the GMCA must push forward with the Plan of 9 as soon as possible, and they will be seeking approval from the Secretary of State to go ahead with the revised strategy without moving backwards in the mandated planning process. Prior to Stockport's withdrawal, the GMSF was at the Regulation 19 stage, which is the final stage before sending the plan to the Secretary of State for approval. This stage means that residents' consultation responses are called representations, and they need to be focused on whether the GMSF is a sound plan, not on whether we like the contents or not. There are a number of areas in which we believe the GMSF lacks soundness, one of which is the plan to release Greenbelt. This is the choice of local political leaders and is unnecessary, as we've outlined in our recent blog and will discuss later. You can find more information about the GMSF and our response on the GMSF page of our website. Trafford's latest iteration of their local plan was discussed at the Council's executive meeting on the 14th of December. This new version of the local plan will supersede the existing plan, which is becoming quite dated, but does include some very important policies which we would not want to be lost in the new version, including references to the importance of our Greenbelt area and the protection and enhancement of our peat moss as a carbon sink to mitigate the impact of climate change. This local plan is still at the Regulation 18 consultation stage, which means we can comment on the content as well as on the soundness of the plan. Published timetables suggest that the next consultation will be held in early 2021, with the Regulation 19 consultation, which is soundness only, being held in late 2021 or early 2022. As already mentioned, the authority must have its plan approved and adopted by the end of 2023. You will find links to the document, the Trafford Local Plan evidence base, and our response to the previous consultation on this local plan, along with other information on the Trafford page of our website. The new draft local plan provides a vision for what sort of place Trafford will be in 2037. These are admirable aims and they mention sustainability a lot, but what does that actually mean? Well, the National Planning Policy Framework suggests that sustainable development can be summarised as meeting the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. So let's look at whether the new Carrington development can be described as sustainable. Clearly, it's currently not a sustainable location because the aim is to transform the allocation area into a sustainable location. Building industrial and warehousing on Greenbelt and constructing a road next to it, so huge volumes of traffic, including HGVs from new and existing businesses, can travel very close to two sites of biological importance, bringing significant air and noise pollution to local communities, does not sound like sustainable economic growth to us. Planning to build 5,000 homes on Grade 2 agricultural land and peat moss, land which retains significant water levels, ensuring that local homes are not flooded, does not sound like a sustainable development, nor is it in alignment with Trafford's declaration of a climate emergency in 2018. It's likely that this plan will require much, if not all, of the peat moss to be drained, which will release significant levels of carbon into our local atmosphere. The largest housing allocation in the whole of Greater Manchester, that is New Carrington, has no plans to bring the tram network to local residents, no commitments to public transport improvements. The only transport commitment in the GMSF is to a new road across the peat moss. Does that sound like a plan for a sustainable transport network which prioritises active and car-free travel? We don't think so. We should also take a look at that strip of green between Sale West and Carrington. Local people will know that much of that land is not accessible to the general public. It includes United Utilities Works, Manchester United Training Grounds, National Grid land, 2 riding centres, Sale Sharks Training Grounds and Sale Rugby FC's training grounds. And of course, the plan is to construct a major road cutting right across it. So it's rather disingenuous to make it look like this is all retained green space for the benefit of the local public. From a soundness perspective, let's briefly talk about school places. Trafford's local plan proposes the build of over 21,000 new homes in total, including this new Carrington allocation. That is a lot of additional school places. Whilst Trafford has a responsibility to find every child a school place, that does not need to be in the school closest to your home. So pressure on school places in Trafford will increase exponentially, and it should be remembered that as new homes are built, existing residents could be pushed further back in the queue for the schools that are nearest to their homes. This means that the need for travel will not be reduced locally, it could be increased considerably. So for all those reasons and more, we don't believe the new Carrington Master Plan will transform the area into a sustainable location. In addition, future generations will have lost access to extensive areas of greenbelt land, the peat moss will be gone, there'll be huge increases in air and noise pollution and potentially in flooding as well. Red-listed birds and endangered wildlife and rare plants will no longer be visible locally. Their habitats will be destroyed, resulting in further and devastating impacts to their numbers. Our approach, though, is not just to criticise. We're working together with local parish councils and other community groups to create alternative strategies. the first of which is our transport strategy proposal. Although this mentions Carrington specifically, we recognise that all the areas surrounding Carrington Moss, Broadheath, Carrington, Dunham, Partington, Sale West and Warburton require the urgent introduction of traffic calming initiatives and additional public transport options. These public transport options have been promised to us since 2006 in the Unitary Development Plan. Take a look at our latest blog for more information about that. Our second strategy is to seek alternatives to building on our greenbelt land. We strongly believe that there is no justification for Trafford to release greenbelt. Whilst officers have recognised that there is adequate land to meet the housing numbers derived from the government's methodology, there's also a need to include a buffer. What the GMCA and the local authorities could have done, in total accordance with National Planning Policy Framework, is to identify the exceptional circumstances that would mean that no release of greenbelt would be necessary. This is particularly important given the anticipated post-COVID changes to working practices, and the lack of foresight here could see our greenbelt concreted over whilst office space and other brownfield sites lie empty. We've been analysing Trafford's brownfield register and their list of potential sites for housing and employment land. Some of our members have provided suggestions of additional sites to be included in the list, and we have also explored a number of potential sites we were already aware of. We've provided some information to Trafford officers for further analysis and continue to identify sites that could be included in our alternative land supply figures. So if you have any ideas, they'd be very welcome. Our third strategy is to transform Carrington Moss into a sustainable natural habitat. Our vision is to reclaim and restore our declining mossland habitat for the benefit of current and future citizens and creatures. We're developing a strategy to increase biodiversity, to optimise the landscape and ensure a balance of land uses, to further increase the productive value of Carrington Moss, halting the fragmentation of this critical green corridor. The Environment Partnership, TEP, assessed the natural environment for each local authority in Greater Manchester. Their analysis shows Trafford more or less at the bottom of the table in terms of biodiversity units in the area. As an authority, we're comparable in terms of land area and population to Tameside, yet in biodiversity units, Tameside are third from the top of the table, Trafford is second from the bottom. We have less than half the biodiversity units that Tameside can boast. The city centre of Manchester only has 3,000 less biodiversity units than Trafford. If the GMSF allocations had already been built before this table was done, Trafford would be at the very bottom. So we're working with a number of specialist organisations and individuals, and we're already seeking funding to take forward our alternative transformation strategy. We hope for support from landowners and Trafford to this revised approach, which would see Carrington Moss designated as a carbon and biodiversity bank, a leader in the future currency of our natural environment. Just a reminder about our area, we have a large number of sites of biological importance and sites of special scientific interest on and around Carrington Moss. We should not be sacrificing the future of our wildlife, our birds and our rare plants for roads, housing and employment space that could be located elsewhere. Thank you for listening, and we hope to see you at our next online meeting.